Hello friends! Today I want to talk about a piece of the eclipse that I didn't get to talk about in the last couple of videos that I did about the eclipse. And this has to do with the nodes, where the north node are and the south node are. And this is particularly significant for us in a larger context related to the prophecy of 2027, which is part of the lore of human design. So I'm not going to go into depth about that whole prophecy, but I do want to zero in here on this particular channel that is being lit up by the nodes, the channel 3740, and how that relates to this big change that we're in and what we're moving towards, and what this is helping us to really kind of dig into as a last chance to understand this before we have this major change. Just a technical piece, eclipses always happen when the nodes are near the sun, the earth, and the moon. And in this case, we've got the north node is conjunct the sun, and the moon and the earth are conjunct the south node. So let's dig into this a little bit more to see how it is helping to reveal certain things that are happening right now, and then also to give us a sneak preview of where we're going. So let's go ahead and get started. So this channel of the 3740 has been lit up. All the nodes have been here, like I said, since the end of December, and they'll be there through the middle of May. So this channel connects the emotional solar plexus to the will center, which are two different motors in the human design system. So there's a lot of power here. There's a lot of energy here, okay? And this channel is known as the channel of the bargain in traditional human design, or the channel of administration in quantum human design. And this channel is part of the Incarnation cross of the cross of Pllaning. And this is that kind of been the background energy that we've had for the last few hundred years. And it is now fading away. What we're going to dig into here is, what does this mean for us now? It's kind of like a last time for us to kind of dig into what this primary energy was before it passes away in the middle of May. So we've been in this for a bit. We have a little bit more to go. This channel is responsible to a degree for the creation of what we think of as modern society. Agreements, contracts, law, right? All of this is in here. I mean, the marriage contract is in here. If you have a deed to your house, you own your car. I mean, just all of the different kinds of agreements that we have. So it fostered the development of law and of nation states. So we've seen nation states really grow when this Incarnation cross started coming into the fore. So this is, like I said, is the channel of the bargain, or the channel of administration. And it enabled us to connect this kind of new willpower that we had that started in the end of the 18th century to our emotional energy. And so we've got all this power here to help to create, right? We can use the power of that will center to be able to focus on what we want, and then the energy coming from that emotional solar plexus, which is also creative energy, to really create with it. So it's been a huge force in the creation, like I said, of nation states and of law and of agreements over the last few hundred years. Now, if we just take a look at where the south node is, the gate 40, the gate 40 is known as loneliness in traditional human design, or restoration in quantum human design. So if we think about this as loneliness, right, in the sense that people who have this defined in their chart, sometimes they say people like this can feel lonely even in a group of friends. There's just this kind of deep sense of loneliness that they carry on inside of themselves, and which is interesting because this is tribal circuitry, and yet there is this sense of aloneness. Now, what I want to emphasize here is, when we have this sense of aloneness, this kind of fosters individualism, which has been a core part of this development of nation states, and particularly in the Western world, which is the sense that I'm on my own. I need to make things happen. I'm in charge of my life, right? That sense of if it's to be, it's up to me. But it's a sense of being isolated and not connected to source, right? It's a sense of, I'm just an isolated individual, human being around, and whatever happens for me is something I need to make happen. Now, because this is the south node, it's kind of like, this is something we've been in, right? It's something that we brought in with us. This is karma, and we're helping to unravel it right now. Then the 37 is known as friendship in traditional human design, or peace in quantum human design. It's an emotional energy and this sense of deep peace. So this is a really great energy to kind of modify that sense of loneliness that the 40 can fall into, and instead help it kind of open up to more of this tribal energy, which is the sense that we're really kind of all in this together. Right? This is a channel of agreements. It's a channel of the bargain. And so this is about how do we collaborate with each other. And what I love about the 37 is this deep sense that we're in this together. Right? I'm not alone. I'm here with others. We're making agreements with others. And the more that we can band together, the better off we're going to be. And I think that that is a beautiful quality that we have with this particular channel. So the nodes lighting up this particular channel is giving us one more opportunity really to kind of dig into what is useful of this particular energy that we want to carry forward with us even after the background energies change, right? What do we want to carry forward with us? And what do we want to leave behind? And I would say here that we want to leave behind this sense of being an isolated individual that fosters a kind of unhealthy individualism and an unhealthy kind of personal sovereignty that says, I can go out and do whatever I want, including, extracting from the earth, extracting from people, whatever. I can go out and do whatever I want. It's all up to me. I'm a self-made person, right? I'm a self-made man usually, right? And so it moderates that so that we have this friendship. Right? We have this friendship and we have this deep sense of peace. And that I think we want to carry forward with us, right? That energy of the 37. Because I think this is like a key component that we're growing inside of ourselves is this deep sense of peace, which is a soul quality that helps us to navigate many challenges that we're in right now when we have this deep sense of peace inside of ourselves. And so we want to be working with our emotional energy so that we're really creating peace inside rather than all the other things that the outer world is trying to get us to feel, right? Rather than falling into this sense that I'm an isolated individual and I'm afraid and I have to take care of myself and I don't know what's going to happen, right? We want to instead step more into a sense of collaboration. Now, we're also seeing the shadow of this particular channel where we're seeing that there are all these different agreements and contracts that were made that have been hidden that have helped to move power and wealth into the hands of a very few people. The disclosures that are coming out right now are starting to reveal this, and a lot more of it is going to come out. And so we're starting to really see the shadow of this, and we're wanting to bring up to the surface whatever has been going on underneath the radar that most of us haven't known about, but have been orchestrating and deeply influencing all of us. So this is a distortion of the development of modern society, right? Which is that there are people who have been really kind of pulling the strings on a lot of things. And I think that we're going to get a lot more information about who those people are and how this is operated. And I know that can be really activating and really terrifying, honestly. To a degree. So I really want to support you to make sure that you're taking good care of yourself as this information comes out, that you're making sure that you ground and you breathe and that you are working with your nervous system. And you're making sure that you can, get regulated, can get relaxed so that you can actually interface with the information that's coming out. Because as I said in previous videos, if you allow either the anger or the outrage or the fear to take over, your survival brain is in charge, and then you can't really think very well because that part is just looking for a threat, and it really distorts your perception. So what we want to be able to do is come clear-eyed to see these different agreements that were made in the past, and there's many, 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 many of them that we're starting to see, and to be able to do that with some ballast of this peace inside of ourselves, right? If we activate that sense of peace from the gate 37, right, it helps us to be able to just witness rather than to get entangled. And that's kind of the key thing that we want to do as this more information is coming out, is how can we witness, how can we know what's going on without getting entangled? And when I say not getting entangled, I don't necessarily mean don't take any action. What I mean is you don't want to get pulled back into that victim, perpetrator, rescuer paradigm, which is all about trauma. right? It's the trauma triangle. You don't want to get pulled into that because you become much more uncomfortable and unhappy, but you also become ineffectual. So even as we're looking at this and we're seeing these bargains and we're seeing these agreements, do your very best to stay or to come back into a resource state so that you have some ballast as you're navigating these challenging things that we're becoming aware of. And that piece is also the positive force of tribal circuitry, right? Is this deep sense that we are interdependent. We, what happens to one happens to many. It really behooves us to recognize that we are in this together rather than feeling like we are these isolated individuals. We just have to go out and make sure that we take care of ourselves, right? And screw everybody else, right? We're evolving out of that. That's where the South Node is now. We're going to just leave that one behind. I saw a really great little reel on Instagram this morning, which, and the headline of it was, "Empires always fall while villages endure," which I think is a wonderful thing for us to think about because empires do get overblown. Every empire that we've seen has gotten bigger and bigger until it gets overblown and then, right? Whereas villages are sustainable. Villages are places where we can grow our own food. We know each other. We support each other when we need it. And so one of the things I would suggest for you is to think about what is a village that you're connected to or a village that you could be connected to if you're not already. I just returned from Costa Rica. If you've been following me, you knew I was there last couple of weeks, where I'm helping to create a village. Really, we're building a town. There's going to be about 1,000 people there. There's 280 lots in this eco-village that we're creating. And it is along these lines of a village of this size is sustainable. We can grow our own food. There's a lot of food that's already being grown there. There's going to be a lot more as more building happens and more people go to live there. And these kind of decentralized communities, I think, are really the wave of the future. Right. Not instead of these big cities that were created by the channel of the bargain, right? Instead of these really big cities, we're going to have smaller, more decentralized ways that people live. And of course, this is a really different way that we are. None of us really know how it's going to happen. I mean, people have been living in villages forever. Like this woman on Instagram, she's like, I've been in this village. My people have been in this village. We're going to stay in this village, right? That's not true for me. I mean, I grew up in cities. I've lived in cities most of my life. I now live in a rural area. It's not totally country, but it's more like that. And so for me, coming into a village is a new experience and I don't know what it's going to be like. We're all co-creating this. And so you might look for yourself about where is there a village that you can be a part of if you're not already a part of one, or are there people you can partner with to create this so that you become more sustainable in a time when these really bigger structures are breaking down, which we see happening really all around us. Now, it's interesting because the incoming Incarnation cross is known as the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And the channel that is part of that Incarnation cross is the 3420, which is the fastest, most powerful channel in the entire human design system. And it is individual circuitry. It's known as the channel of charisma or the channel of power or the channel of the manifesting generator because it connects the sacral directly to the throat center. And so this is individual energy. It's individual circuitry. And yet it's also in the age of Aquarius. Pluto is in Aquarius. And we know that the moniker for Pluto in Aquarius is the sovereign self in the sanctity of community aligned with cosmic consciousness. So yes, we do have an awakening of this sovereign energy of the 3420, of that manifesting generator energy. But it's not that individualism that I was just talking about. It is inside of the sanctity of community. And we get to really work with that. And what's also interesting is when the nodes move in the middle of May, they're going to move into the other two gates of the cross of the sleeping phoenix, the 55 and the 59. And the north node's going to be in the 55. So the 55 is known as abundance in traditional human design or faith in quantum human design. And it's the energy of knowing that it's the energy of knowing that we'll always have what we need when we need to have it. So it is in counterpoint to this idea of accumulation, this idea certainly of hoarding, but even accumulating, which is so built into Western culture, right? This idea that you have to accumulate, which is why we have so many hoarders, right? Because there's this sense of not enoughness, and then we need to hold on to more and more so that we feel okay. Whereas the 55, which is where the North Node is going to move, and this is going to be part of the background energy of the cross of the sleeping phoenix, is this kind of balm, if you will. It's emotional energy. It's on the emotional solar plexus. And it's a kind of balm to that anxiety that just keeps saying, I always have what I need when I need to have it. I always have what I need when I need to have it. So there's more to say about that. And when I do the video on the prophecy of 2027, I'll dig into that more. Even though they're in individual circuitry, the 3420 is generated energy. It comes out of the sacral center. So it's generated energy, and generated energy is always responsive. And what does that mean? It means that it co-creates with spirit. It co-creates with source. So even though it's individual circuitry, it's still in a dynamic relationship with source energy. It's not that isolated individualism that we got, that I was talking about the gate 40, or the potential of that, right? And the 55 is also individual circuitry. But again, it's very much related to source energy, right? Because it's, I always have what I need. It's at the faith, right? What do we have faith in? We have faith in source. Right? We have faith in a higher power. We have faith in our own higher selves, and that there is a creative God force, if you will, that is always saying that we have what we need when we need to have it, as long as we are not getting locked into scarcity, in which case we're creating more scarcity. So there's some really interesting things that are coming up here, and that we're shifting from this kind of tribal circuitry into this more individual circuitry, but individual circuitry that is very much connected to source energy. And it is calling us to say, okay, what are we going to create with this powerful energy, this 3420, the fastest, most powerful energy in the chart? And we need to make sure that we do it in our relationship to source, right? This is the beginning of the knowing circuit, the beginning of that individual circuitry, right? We're plugged right into super consciousness. And that is what's going to make this individual circuitry different than the way it's been expressed when we've been more in a time where individualism has held sway. So let's just remember, the astrology is really very clear about the breakdown of the old order, the breakdown of empires. It's going to be the breakdown of the hidden empire as well. I don't exactly know how that's going to happen, but Pluto in Aquarius, which is also being activated by Uranus, who rules Aquarius, are really bringing up from the underworld, because Pluto is the god of the underworld, right? Bringing up from the underworld so that we can all see what's been going on in the background. And that, as we develop the resilience and the stamina and the courage to really face it and work with it and find a way out of this kind of manipulation that we've been in, that we have a bright future in front of us with this manifesting energy, this individual circuitry, but which is also responsive and in a dynamic relationship. And just to emphasize, we've already been in this transition between the Incarnation cross of the cross of Pllaning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. This has already been going on for decades, and it will continue on for decades. We like to say 2027, but it's not like all of a sudden January 1st, 2027, everything's going to be different. We're already in the change. We've already been in the change. Because we've already seen certain kinds of contracts and agreements breaking down. And that's going to continue as we start to move really more into the rise of the sovereign, if you will. And so I'm going to be excited to talk to you next about this Aries energy that is coming on really, really strong. Of course, Neptune and Saturn are in Aries. They've been in Aries. We just had the grand conjunction on February 20th. And then we're going to have the Aries equinox on the 20th of March. And then that's going to bring in really powerful Aries energy. And so I'm going to be happy to talk to you a little bit more about that. I have a lot of activations in Aries. I know the Aries energy really well. And it's a big boon for us when we know how to use it, because Aries energy can run you around. Just like that 3420, that can also run you around. So one of the things I often say to people, to clients and people who come for readings, is I say, you got to learn how to manage this energy, or this energy is going to manage you. So this is going to be our opportunity, is to learn how to really work with these super powerful energies. So that's my transit report for today. And I hope this was helpful for you, just to kind of be thinking about, we're leaning into peace. We're leaning into friendliness, right, for the next couple months. And then we're going to lean into always knowing that we have what we need when we need to have it. These are very auspicious. Sometimes they're hard for us to believe, because we do have war in the world right now, and there is a lot of strife and division. But it's not the core of who we are. We as humanity really are designed to be together, to support each other, to work together, to collaborate together with source energy. And as we can trust that more and build our new decentralized villages or towns, the happier and better off we're all going to be. All right, my friends, I will be back with another video for you very soon. It's such an incredibly dynamic time, and the stars are giving us a lot of guidance about where to place our energy. And the last thing I want to say is, you will feel much better in your life if you're looking at the positive aspects of what the astrology and what's happening with the human design mandala than you will if you're paying more attention to the mainstream news. Because I think we all know, but we still get sucked in, which is that outer world is doing its very best to stimulate fear in you, to stimulate, the desire for revenge in you, for you to jump back into that trauma triangle. So you will feel much better, and you'll be more effective in your life if you just exit the trauma triangle, come into that deep space of peace inside yourself, witness what's going on, and to be discerning. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.